So the practice that we're going to do today is called minding the midline. And this is one of the concepts that Tia's taught in my training. And so the midline, oh darn, I was going to bring something to show you guys. He talked about our diaphragms in our body, and our diaphragms, and I say plural because there's more than one, which was something kind of a new concept for me. I've heard of the pelvic diaphragm, but I didn't know about several others throughout the body. So they're basically little slings in the body that give us support through the spine. And of course, the pelvic floor is the bottom one. And then we have our respiratory diaphragm. And then there's also one in the throat, and there's one in the brain. And it just gives everything support. It's like a fascial sling, if you will. And so when those things are lined up, we can get a proper breath. When those things are out of alignment, we're not able to get in those full deep breaths. So I'll show you that in some different postures today. We can kind of experiment with that and see how the breathing changes when we're not fully lined up. So we're going to focus a lot on this concept of the midline, which according to Tias is also associated with the Shiva Principle. So I know some of you guys are yoga teachers, so you'll know, I recognize the word Shiva. And Shiva is one of the main Hindu deities, but it's also a word that refers to kind of really being very still in a deep meditative state. So the Shiva Principle is about being on the midline, being very still, very stable. It's about recharging ourselves. But then when we go off the midline, that's the Shakti Principle. So that's the partner. It's like a male-female combination. Shakti is considered the feminine principle. Shiva is considered the masculine principle. So when we go off the midline, we're no longer in that symmetrical shape. We also put ourselves at more risk when we're off the midline, right? It'll feel less stable. So we'll see that as we do some different postures, how when we're off the midline, it feels less stable. When we come back to midline, it's kind of regrounding us. And that'll be our focus. So we're going to start with a little core work. So that's basically for the midline part. So we're going to start on our backs. I have a blanket down because I have a hard floor. Up to you. If you don't, if you have carpet, you might not need that. We also need a strap. Yeah, we need a strap and probably a set of blocks, blanket if you need one. And I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody and we'll get started. All right, so feel free to start music if you're playing music. If you're all muted now. All right, so if you like, you could have a pillow under your head for our initial work here. Have your strap within reach. And then just go ahead, come on your back. And you could either have your feet flat or your legs out straight. And we're just going to start with some breath and awareness to this area called the midline. So think about kind of the area of the tailbone, the base of the spine, perineum, pelvic floor, kind of the bottom of this midline. And then we work our way up through the center, kind of the area of our navel center, the center of our rib cage, the heart space, the throat, all the way up into the upper palate and the crown of the head. So now as you take a few breath cycles, as you inhale, imagine you're breathing in from the tailbone or the perineum all the way up to the crown of your head. And as you exhale from the crown of the head back down. And just have your awareness along this central channel of the spine. And allow the belly to rise and fall with your breath. So a nice diaphragmatic breath. So when we're on our backs here, we're very symmetrical, we're very safe, we're very stable. And those diaphragms are all lined up. So I'll see if I can get you guys a picture of that. I'll send it by email. So the diaphragms are all lined up so we can get a really efficient, full breath here. And all of our muscles are a little more relaxed when we're here on the ground. So that also facilitates our breath as well as being aligned. So I'm going to ask you to take a few more breath cycles there, just tuning in. I'm just going to share a little quote with you from my training. So it says that the middle channel is as slender as the stem of a lotus. And if one meditates on this inner channel, it helps in revealing the divine. So T.S. calls this central channel our pathway to spirit, where the tailbone is kind of our connection to the ground, and the crown of the head is our connection to spirit, particularly when we're sitting in a seated meditation posture. So go ahead and take 3 more breaths here and see if you can get your awareness to be really fine into that central channel within your spinal column. So this is referred to as the chitra. The chitra is like a thin thread of the lotus in the center of the Sushumna channel, is that center nadi, and it is said to be the most vital part of the body. And this is from Swami Shivananda. It's called the heavenly way, the giver of immortality. By contemplating on the chakras that exist in this channel, the yogi attains the highest bliss. It is the giver of moksha, which is liberation. All right. So on your next inhale, let's go ahead and take a full body stretch. So we're still on the midline when we do that. And then let's bring the right knee into the chest and just give that knee a hug. We're still on the midline, but now a little less symmetrical. So if we were standing, it would be kind of harder to hold that knee up. We'd feel less stable. Let's go ahead and grab our strap and take the leg up, beginning to work on that hamstring a bit. So still on the midline here, we're going to spread the toes, reach through both heels, and gently hug your inner thighs towards each other and roll your right hip crease away from you a bit. Keep the low back nice and lengthened and the shoulders relaxed. Now take that strap just in your right hand, hold up as high as you can towards your foot, and now bring your awareness to the left side of your body. I want you to make sure left side of the body stays on the midline. Try not to lift it up at all. We're going to take an inhale, and as you exhale, start to open that right leg out to the side. So that leg is now going off the midline. But notice, is that left side starting to lift up? Can you keep it down? So we might want to go super slow as we take that right leg out to the side, and even use your left hand to ground your left side of your body. And when you feel like you can't go any farther without going off the midline, you're going to pause. Now take an inhale and exhale, come back through the center, change hands. And then bring your right hand in your hip crease, right hip crease, and roll it forward to get that length through your side body. Reach up through the heel, take an inhale. And as you exhale, we're starting to cross the midline. So take that leg over to the left. Good, reach out through your heel. The left side of the body still in that same position. We haven't rolled over to the side yet. Continue to roll your right leg a little forward, lengthening the side body. And if you want to go further, you're going to now roll off that midline, roll over to the side, onto your hip, onto the pinky toe side of your foot, and then really reach out through both legs. So we're still trying to lengthen through the right side. All right, slowly bring it back up, back to the midline. And then we're going to release and hug that knee into your chest. Full body stretch on your next inhale. And then exhale, bring the other knee in. Give it a good squeeze. And then, of course, let's do your other side. Take that foot up and pause here. So eventually we're going to take some of these concepts into standing poses. So it's important to get some of these things down now. The idea of hugging toward that midline, our legs, our inner thighs just draw towards each other to help us get stability if we were in a standing position. All right, strap into your left hand. Now right side is going to stay on that midline. Don't let it pop up. Slowly take that left leg out to the side. And just be really aware of your spine staying in that neutral position, of the right side staying grounded as you open that leg to the side. Reach out through both heels, spread your toes. Keep those shoulders relaxed. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, go ahead and come up and switch hands. Left hand into your hip crease, find that length through the left side, and then just come over part way, keeping that right leg, right side body all on the ground for now. We get a little bit more stretch into that kind of right side, maybe calf, IT band. And then let's go ahead, if you want, you can go ahead and roll all the way over. And lengthen through that top hip. And holding here, reaching out through both legs. And then we'll go ahead and bring it back up. And release, hug that knee back in. You can set that strap off to the side. And now let's take one more full body stretch. And then we're gonna bring the knees flat. Take your pillow out if you have one under your head. And take your hands behind the back of your head. So we're going to do the arch and curl. This is one of them that Tia says that, you know, if we're going to do one of the movements, this is the one to do. It strengthens the core, of course, but it really gives us a felt sense of our psoas, which is a really important midline muscle. So let's inhale, arch your back. You're going to lift your back away from the ground. The tailbone tips forward, it's almost like a cat-cow. And then as you exhale, curl up. Elbows in, press into your low back, scoop out your lower belly, and then release. Inhale, coming down and arch. Exhale, curl up. Press the lower back down, lift your shoulder blades, and scoop out your belly. Keep that going. We're going to add on in a few moments. Really important as you come up, you're going to press that lower back down. And now notice how far you wobble as you come up. Do you wobble off the midline? And can you kind of stabilize that and stay a little bit more even through these movements? Okay, so now inhale, arch, and as you exhale, right elbow, left knee, lift the left knee, cross the midline. So now we're off that midline, come down, inhale, arch, exhale, left elbow, right knee, curl it up. And now keep that going a few more rounds, crossing over the midline. And if you want to add on to this, inhale, arch, exhale, straighten the leg. And reach for that knee. Every time you come down, there's that arch, and then you lift up. So a little different from a traditional kind of crunch here. We're adding in this like kind of slight cat-cow sensation. And that arch and curl is working on that psoas area. Let's do one more each side. Okay, so now straight through center again. Inhale, arch, and exhale, lift your right leg up and curl in directly toward that knee, back on the midline. Come down, inhale, arch, exhale, left leg straight up. And as you come up, press your low back into the ground. And that strengthens the transverse abdominis another important muscle along the midline. It helps us stabilize. So that transverse abdominis is an important role in stabilizing us when we're in balancing poses, lunging poses where we don't want to let our hips sway off to the side. One more of these on each side. All right, and then go ahead, just release. Let your legs slide out, let your arms slide out. Have a moment here. Just feel maybe some energy that you just created along the midline of the body. Breathe into it. All right, and then from here, we'll go ahead, bend the knees, roll over to our side, and we're gonna come right up into tabletop pose, all fours. So even though we just did sort of a cat-cow, we're gonna do it again here because I want you to have that sense of really staying on the midline as you do this work in a different orientation. So now inhale, and as you exhale, round your spine, tailbone and head draw towards each other, and then inhale, arch, lift your sit bones, lift your gaze. Now again, how much do you wobble side to side as you do this movement? Can you stay right along that midline? So use a little bit more control. Maybe you need to slow down so you have that awareness. So 2 more cycles like this. And after that second cycle, you can go ahead, come back into a child's pose. So child's pose, again, we're on the midline. Very safe place to be. Let's walk it off the midline over to the right. So come into a side bend. Slide your right hand back like a little kickstand and reach through that left hand. Walk your fingers as far away as you can. Let your head come down. And then pull your left sit bone away from your left palm. So we get that length through the side body. Let the shoulder drop toward the ground. Hold here another breath and push your right hand a little forward. All right, go ahead and release. Come over, walk it over to the other side. Left hand comes back like a little kickstand. Reach through your right arm. And really kind of walk those fingers as far forward as you can. And then pull the right sit bone away from the right hand to get more length on the side body. Send your breath there. And then push with your left palm just to get a little bit more out of it. All right, next inhale, let's come back up into our tabletop pose. And we're gonna thread the needle. So we're gonna take the right arm out to the side and then thread it through, coming into your thread the needle. So I'm gonna do it facing you. So now we're just slightly off the midline here in the twist. We can make it more interesting by stepping your left foot out to the side. So now we're even a little less stable. Only going there if that feels right for you. Maybe wrap the arm around. Maybe you're gonna hold onto your ankle or your shin and turn your chest open a little bit more. So we come into a nice twist. Root down into your bottom arm. Turn your top shoulder back a little bit more. Holding here. Now, if you want to try a little bit more play, you can take that top hand. So bring your left hand to the floor, kind of behind your head. And then release your right hand down to the floor. And see if you can ground through the back foot and lift that foot off the ground. So the ground, you're going to ground the back foot and lift the left leg off the ground. So we get a lot more unstable here. Reach through your heel. You got to really stabilize by rooting into the ground. Try not to roll out of it. If you do, just go with it. And then we're going to release. So be really careful on that release and slowly, slowly unwind it. Come back to the center, back to safety, back to the midline. Let's try that on the other side. So now inhale, left arm out to the side, thread it through. Really get that shoulder through. And then option to step that leg out to the side. You got it. Option to wrap your arm. You might stay with that for a little bit. You can keep the arm down if you're not steady. You got it. Make sure you're rooting into that bottom arm, turning the chest open. Now, if you want to go for that little bit of extra play, release the top arm down to the ground behind your head. So walk it over. Keep rooting down into the ground, especially that bottom arm, and then carefully starting to lift the leg. And we got to root into that other leg. Yeah, just roll with it. Make sure you're okay there. All right. Reach through the heel, find your core. And then we're going to slowly, slowly take your time, release, make your way back to child's pose. All right, so those of you who might have a blanket down, you can go ahead, take that off. And we're going to get ready to move more now. So when you're ready, we're going to come into our downward facing dog. So downward facing dog, we're on the midline. Root through your palms. Let's go ahead, maybe pedal it out a bit. And on your next inhale, go ahead and come forward into plank pose and orient yourself toward that midline. Find your tailbone, reach it toward your heels and reach your head toward the top of your mat, lengthening your spine. Lift your front hip points so you feel that length through your tail, chest forward. And then you can lower your knees or come all the way down without lowering your knees. Come to your belly. Reach back through your toes, let the legs get long, and inhale, Cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. From your dog, step your feet forward a few inches and take them as wide as your mat until you can get your feet flat on the ground. Hopefully, if they don't go all the way, that's okay. Bend your knees just a little bit and then really press through your right palm. Firm that arm into the midline and then see if you can get light on your left palm and reach over and grab your right shin, coming into a twist. So you're gonna hold onto your right shin, maybe turn and look underneath your arm. Push down and in with your right palm. Keep your legs on the midline. Hold another breath. And then release and do your other side. So get heavier in the left palm, lighter in the right. And then eventually come into your down dog twist. Hold your shin, calf, wherever you can. Look under your arm. Keep firming that left arm into the midline. Maybe feel like you're reaching your tailbone back behind you. And then release. Bring that palm back down. And now we're going to go ahead and walk the feet forward, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, we're going to rise all the way up. And then release, arms down at your side. Good. So this is another really stable position when we're in our mountain pose, just like when we're in our Shavasana. So our most symmetrical, most midline oriented poses. So just feel the safety of that, the groundedness of it. And then again, we're going to work off the midline in a moment. We're going to inhale first, lift your heels, reach the arms up. So notice how that's a little less stable. And then lower, heels down. Again, inhale, reach, lift your heels. Bend your knees, come into chair pose, and see if you can keep those heels lifted. So we're still on the midline, but maybe a little less stable. Good. Inhale, rise up. Keep those heels lifted if you can. And then release. Heels down, arms down. Good. Adding on to that. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, bend your knees. Come into chair. Heels lifted if you can. Heels down if you need to modify. And then now let's bring the hands to the heart and press the hands to the midline. Good. Send your hip creases back. Tone your belly. And now let your heels drop and prayer twist over to your right. Hook your elbow over your knee. So now we're off the midline. However, the spine, I want you to still get a sense of being on the midline by reaching your tailbone back and then reach your chest and head forward, lengthen, and now twist even more. Press through your palms, turn towards your right side. Hold here another breath, palms pressing. And then on your next inhale, release. Rise up through center, lift your heels, open your arms. Exhale, chair pose, heels up if you can. Palms together in front of your heart. Press those palms together and then let the heels drop. Good. Inhale here. You're going to move those hip creases back. Exhale, prayer twist. And then palms press together. Send your tailbone back, chest and head forward to find that midline. And then press the palms, turn into the twist. Let's hold here. We want to squeeze the legs towards each other as you move the tailbone back to get that stability toward the midline. And then release. Inhale, come up. Lift your heels, reach the arms. And then exhale, arms down at your side. Good. Stand at the top of your mat if you're not there. And if you need blocks for lunges, go ahead and put your blocks in place. If you don't need them, you can let that go. Standing in your mountain pose, nice and stable. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen your spine as you step your right foot to the back of your mat. And let's drop the knee down to the ground. Rise up, hands on your front thigh. Okay, so here we're on the midline, but we're asymmetrical. So we still have to stabilize. Hug the inner thighs in and engage the muscles right between your two hip points. That's that transverse abdominis that helps us stabilize here. So hug in here and lift up through the low belly, lengthen through your tailbone. And now inhale, reach your arms up. Pause here, really lengthen, have that awareness to the spine. And then we'll bring the palms together like we did in our chair twist. Inhale here. As you exhale, hook the elbow over the knee, right elbow over left knee. That's it. And then press your palms together. Find that rotation through your spine. Good. And if you want, you can lift your back knee off the ground. So that might be less stable, of course. So if it's too much, keep that knee down on the ground. Now, even though we're asymmetrical, we're off the midline, can you get the sense of getting the stability as if you were on the midline? Let's hold one more breath. Good. And then go ahead, release your hands down. Step back, plank pose, back to safety, back to the center channel. Lower down, Cobra or your upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. Inhale your right leg straight up behind you. Stay on that midline as you do so. And step through to the lunge, drop your back knee down. And then finding your stability, rooting down, hugging in, engage your lower belly muscles. As you're ready, reach the arms up. So as we do repeat things, the body starts to remember how to stabilize. Find as much length as you can through your spine and then drop your hands to your heart. Inhale here, open your chest. Exhale, prayer twist. Get a sense of the sit bone, the right sit bone, hugging in. So it's right behind your knee, which is over your ankle. So those lines will also help us stay toward the midline. Palms pressed, turn open. Maybe tuck the back toes, lift that knee if you feel stable enough to do so. And then the legs hug to the midline. And we lengthen the spine away from the pelvis as we turn. Hold here, finding the Shiva principle of stillness, even in this asymmetrical pose. Good, release. This time we step forward. Fold over your legs. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, release, arms down. Good. On the other side, inhale, arms reach. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lengthen as you step your left foot to the back of your mat. Drop your knee. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, right into prayer twist. Maybe lift that knee. So now going just a little faster. As we increase speed, we get less stable. So be aware of that. Release your knee. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, hands down, step back, take your vinyasa. Next, inhale, left leg up. Step through, back knee down. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, prayer twist right into it. Maybe lifting that back knee if you like. And find the stillness even in the movement. It's like the yin and yang symbol. There's always a little yin in the yang and a little yang in the yin. Release your hands, step forward. Fold over your legs. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Standing in your mountain pose, bring your left knee up and into your chest. So just like we did on our backs. So even though we're on the midline, less stable on one leg. Good. Now see if you can keep holding with your left hand, take your right arm out to the side. Now we're even a little bit more off that midline. Find the Shiva in the Shakti. Take that leg out to the side. Hand presses inside the leg and the leg presses into the hand, lift your chest. And then maybe extend the leg out to the side. If that's too much, stay at any position that works for you. So find where you can find the Shiva within the Shakti. Good, release, bring it back in and down. Take a breath back to safety. And then let's try the other side. So we're going to stand on the left leg, hug the right knee in. First, stabilizing, rooting into that standing leg, send the thigh bone back so you feel your heel on the ground. And then we take that leg out to the side and press the hand and leg into each other to create stability. Opposite arm can reach if you're stable. Maybe you want to keep it on your hip. Maybe you're going to extend that leg out to the side. Look how asymmetrical we are. Find the stillness. Good, bring it back in and release. Back to safety. Hold here for a breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. All right. And then inhale, the arms reach. Exhale, fold forward over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Step back, take the vinyasa, or you can go right to dog if you wish. Cobra or up dog. So Cobra, you lower to the ground. Meeting in dog, and then inhale the right leg straight up. Step through warrior one position, spin the back heel down, bend deeply into your front knee, and then reach your arms up. Pausing here, awareness to your central channel. See if you can aim your tailbone a little more down, lift the front of your pelvis a little more up, and then reach through your arms. As you keep your back heel super grounded, bend a little deeper into your front knee. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Press the palms, open the chest, and as you exhale, hinge forward. Keep your sit bone in behind your knee. You can stay here, more in the midline, or elbow hooks over the knee. This is pretty challenging to do it with that back heel grounded, so only if that feels right for you. Keep squeezing the front sit bone in, press the palms together, and try to lengthen through your midline. Good, release. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down, step back, vinyasa or right to dog, your choice. And we'll do that on the other side. Inhale, left leg up, step through, warrior one. So really keep the back thigh moving back, round into the back heel, bend into the front knee. And then find a little bit more midline by lifting the front of the belly, lengthening the tailbone, and lift the rib cage, reach through your arms. Hold here another breath, get taller. And then bring the hands together in front of your heart. Inhale here, press the palms, open the chest, and exhale, hinge forward. Remember, you can stay here. Squeeze the sit bone in behind the knee, and then possibly come into the prayer twist. Now you want to keep this back leg reaching back, thigh bone back, root into the back heel as best you can. Inhale, unwind, reach the arms up, warrior one. Hands down, step back, down dog, or take your vinyasa. And know that you can always take a child's pose anytime. If you need to recharge your battery, you need a little stillness, come down for a moment. All right, let's add on. Inhale, right leg up, step through, warrior one. Arms reach. Hands to the hips. We're gonna step the back foot in and prepare for pyramid pose. So pyramid pose, very much a midline pose. We're gonna reach down into the legs, squeeze the inner thighs towards each other, and then inhale, reach the arms up. Find your midline. Tailbone down, front hip points up, lift through your arms. And now as you exhale, slight bend in your front knee, hinge forward. Reach, 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 and then hands to the blocks or the floor. If your spine is rounded to get to the floor, I'd rather have you be up on blocks, okay? So I want you to get a sense of your spine lengthening rather than rounding. So we're not in the forward fold, we're more neutral with our spine. As you hold here, hug your inner thighs towards each other. So you feel like the sit bones draw closer into the midline. Send your inner thighs back to lengthen your lower back. And then send your chest forward. Tuck your chin a little bit and lift through the back of your skull to get the neck in line with the rest of your spine. Hold here, just hugging in toward the midline. And if you like, go ahead and fold over the front leg. And you might come inside the seam of your front leg if you want to go a little deeper. You could lower your blocks or bring your hands to the floor. Now keep drawing the legs in toward the midline. See if you can reach your tailbone back and your chest a little forward, even in the forward fold, to get some more length. We've got one more breath. And then on your next inhale, we're going to slowly come up to the halfway shape again. Bend a little into your front knee, step back, either down dog, vinyasa, or always a child's pose if you need it. Good. Just even as you do your vinyasa, can you have that awareness to the spine, to your midline? Other side, inhale, left leg. Step through, warrior one. Spin the back heel down, reach the arms up. Send that back thigh back, lift the front of the pelvis, reach higher. And then hands to hips, step that back foot in and find your pyramid pose. So adjust your feet so you feel stable. Hug the inner thighs. Inhale, lift your chest, send your shoulders back. And as you exhale, starting to hinge forward. Actually, sorry, we reach the arms up. Inhale the arms up. Lengthen first, then hinge forward. And find your blocks if you're using them. If your arms are long enough, you can easily reach the floor without rounding your spine. That's okay. But let's pause here. Send those inner thighs back and hug them in. And as you anchor the tailbone back, reach your chest forward. Lower your chin and lift the back of your skull toward the sky. Staying here, feeling that sense of your midline. And then if you like, taking the forward fold, in which case you could lower or lose your blocks. See if you can find your big toes and root them into the ground as well as your heels. And then hug those inner thighs. Try to lift through your sit bones as you let your head descend. Keep the back thigh rooting back. Last breath here. And then we're going to bend into that knee, step it back. You know your options. We're going to add on one more. All right. So same sequence, adding on now. Inhale, right leg up, step through, warrior one. Reach your back heel down, arms circle up. Hands to your hips, step your back foot in. Inhale, the arms reach. Exhale, hinge, find your pyramid pose and pause. So find all those alignment points, all the things we've been working on to orient to the midline, hugging in and lengthening through your spine. And we're going to move to Revolve Triangle now. So stage one, bring your block that's in your left hand to your right big toe. Keep your left hand on that block, bring the right hand to the hip. If that's pretty easy, you could take your block that's under your right hand and move your left hand across the midline, and it'll be a deeper pose. So the hand could either be on the big toe side or the little toe side of your foot. See if you can keep your back heel grounded. Pull the front sit bone in so it's behind your knee and behind your ankle bone. And then press down into that hand and turn your chest. Press into the bottom hand, and the top hand can press down into your hip crease and turn open. Find the Shiva in the Shakti. Maybe you're going to reach your arm up. That's another piece that might make you feel unstable. So if it does, keep that arm down. Now squeeze to the middle, lengthen your spine, reach out through your arms. Try not to turn from your arm. Don't throw the arm back. Turn your rib cage. Last breath. Wring it all out. And then release, everyone. Step it back. Take your vinyasa. Take your child's pose if you need it, or go right to dog. Good. When you're ready, inhale the left leg up behind you. Step through warrior one. Reach your arms up. So moving a little faster through the first two poses. Hands to the hips. Step that back foot in. Hug into the midline. Inhale, arms reach. Exhale, hands down. And take your time to set up your pyramid before you come into Revolve Triangle. So adjust your feet so you feel stable. Send those inner thighs back, chest forward. Lift the back of your skull. Hugging in toward the midline. And then decide, either block this in your right hand on the big toe side, or cross the midline, hand to the pinky toe side, and then bring your left hand onto your hip. Now, before we turn, inhale, find the length by tailbone anchoring back, chest forward, and now turn. Push down into your hands and turn your rib cage. Turn your rib cage as far as you can. Bottom ribs wrap under, top ribs back, and then maybe the arm can come up. So try not to use your arm to compensate. The twist happens from your core muscles. So use your muscles around your rib cage to squeeze you into that turn rather than throw your arm back. And find the Shiva in the Shakti. Last breath, hug in, reach wide, and then release. Nice work, everybody. Step it back, take your vinyasa if you like. We're all gonna meet in child's pose from here. Well deserved. Take a couple moments to recharge. Take a child's pose and feel the ground beneath you, feel the stability, and let everything go. And just notice how, this mindful work of really being aware of the midline, moving a little slower so we can be stable, can be quite challenging, on our nervous systems if we're not used to that. All right, and then make your way back to downward facing dog. And then from your downward facing dog, go ahead, walk your feet forward, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, release. All right, grab your two blocks. And we're going to take a supported Uttanasana. It's a nice way to just really come back to the midline. So you're going to have to play with what level works for you. You might need like one block flat, one block high, depending on how far, you come down. I'm going to put one block flat, one block middle, and then you could also put a blanket on top of that if you wish. And then have your feet about outer hips distance. And then we're going to rest the head down onto the props. And we get just a little, acupressure on the top of the head. So adjust your props. I'm going to check in on you guys. Adjust your props so you can have maximum length of your spine. So you might need to lower. Yep, that's it. If you need a blanket, grab a blanket. You might have just a little bend in your knees, but the legs are mostly straight. You can always stack two blocks on high. It'll be less stable, but especially those of you who are a little taller in stature, you might need to keep those blocks higher. As you're there, find your feet and root down to have that sense of stability. Try to keep the back of your neck long. We don't want to crunch the back of the neck. you want, you could hold your big toes and bend your elbows toward the sides. With the knees a little bent, lift your sit bones up, tip the sit bones up so that you can let your spine drape a little more. Now, when I do that, I'm able to get closer to the ground. So my sit bones tip up, I can lower my blocks. So just notice if that's the case for you. We're going to hold for 3 more breaths. That awareness along your spine. After your 3rd breath, you can either roll up with a deep bend in your knees or press up, hands to hips, and press yourself up. Good. All right, from here, we're going to just come right down to sit. So maybe sitting on a folded blanket, you might want to have your blocks nearby, and you might want to have your strap nearby. And we're going to come into a bound angle position and find our midline now in seated postures. All right. So for many of us, we have a slight tuck of the tail under when we come to sit. Some of us do the opposite. We kind of really stick our tail out and we have a big arch in our back. The tendency is for those sit bones to curl under. So take a moment and pull your sit bones apart and slightly back so that you can feel that center base right onto your prop or the ground. So we get more of the pelvic floor, the perineum on the ground. And then we can start to line up these diaphragms. So we line up our pelvic diaphragm with our respiratory diaphragm, with our throat, with the crown of the head. And now go ahead, take a couple breaths here. You might even close your eyes. Even the feet are touching in the midline. Let the belly the breath come into your belly. And notice the central channel being lined up and how free the breath is here. We're going to contrast that in a moment. So now from here, we're going to undo the good work we just did. Let your sit bones tuck under, let your shoulders drop, and you're kind of in a rounded spine. Let your head drop. Now try to take a full breath in. My breath gets very stuck right about the area of the diaphragm. So come back up, find the central channel again, line everything up. And now take another breath. See the difference. So alignment is not only about looking good in a posture, it's about being able to have a freer flow of our breath and our energy. Now we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to bring our hands maybe to the shins, wherever we can hold on to, and take a big arch to your back, like you're doing your cat-cow. Your back muscles are tight, maybe look up, and now try to take a breath. It goes a little farther for me, but it still gets stuck somewhere. And now back to the midline, and notice the difference again once you're in that channel. Much freer and easier breath. Okay, so from here, inhale, lift up nice and tall, hinge from your hip creases, and try to keep length in your spine as you fold forward. You might clasp your hands around your toes. And as you fold forward, let your sit bones tip back. So like you're trying to stick your tail out behind you. Lower your chin, lift the back of your neck, and then push out through the crown of your head. Feel all that length in your spine, and then you might be able to go a little farther. How's your breath? So if your breath gets stuck, can you find a little more length through your midline? Maybe you don't fold forward as far. So you can sense that breath moving all the way down to the pelvic floor. And on your next inhale, let's slowly, slowly come up. Take your left leg straight out in front of you. You can keep the right leg where it is, or we're going to cross it over the midline, come into like a half Gomukhasana position. And you might need your strap here around your foot if you're not able to easily. Actually, let's all start with the strap so we can stay up tall, find our midline. So strap around that foot. We're squeezing the inner thighs together to draw to the midline. And also that squeezing will help us sit up taller. Find the tops of your sit bones. Squeeze the inner thighs. As you inhale, lengthen as far as you can, and then exhale, hinging forward, staying on the midline. And then if you can easily reach your foot, you can now let go of that strap and hold the foot. Keep squeezing those inner thighs towards each other. Inhale, lift up tall through your chest. Stick your sit bones back out behind you. It's a small movement, but it creates more length in our low back. And then fold over the leg. Breathing here. And see if you can have a sense of breathing into both sides of your rib cage. Sorry, my cat's over there sneezing, if you guys heard that. All right, next inhale, let's slowly come up. And then both legs out straight. Let's try the other side. So take the other leg on top. Try to line up your knees. You could also stay here if that's too much. Squeeze those inner thighs together. And first, using your strap so we can sit up tall. If you could reach your foot here, I'd be very impressed. My arms are way too short. And we're going to draw the shoulders back, root down through the sit bones, and lift through the crown of the head. So we get as much length through the midline before we fold. Keep squeezing those inner thighs. Inhale. And as you exhale, starting to hinge at your hip creases. And then go ahead, hold the foot if you can. Otherwise, keep holding on to your strap. And then we inhale, lift the chest up. Try to stick your booty back behind you. Just a tiny little tip of the sit bones. And then fold over that front leg. Breathing evenly into both sides of your rib cage. One more breath here. And then on your next inhale, slowly, slowly starting to come up and both legs out straight. All right, so flexing both feet will come into Paschimottanasana now. If you like a roll under your knees, you can put something under your knees. Before we fold forward, get a sense of pulling your sit bones slightly back. So it gives a little bit of length into that top of the hamstring there, but also facilitates the tipping, because if our sit bones are tucked under, we're not going to be able to find the length here because we're going to be all rounded in our lower back. Root your thigh bones down. You can even press them down with the heels of your hands. Lift your chest, lift the crown of your head. Keep the thighs rooting down, so active version compared to what we did last week. Inhale the arms up. Stay here. Keep rooting your thighs, flexing your feet. Reach as high as you can and orient to the midline. And as you exhale, reach forward, lengthen, lengthen, and then eventually either hold your feet or use your strap around your feet. Pause here. You're still kind of halfway up. Think about your sit bones tipping back and then lengthen through the crown of your head, little tuck to your chin. Lift the back of your skull. On your next exhale, if you want to go further, go ahead and now fold forward. And we can start to now relax a little bit more. Let the spine even gently round. Let your head go. And then soften into this one. If it's challenging on your hamstrings, bring a little bend to your knees to give a little slack there. We're going to take 3 more breaths. And as you take those breaths, follow that breath all the way through your midline. On your next inhalation, come back up to the halfway shape, belly in, and then carefully bring yourself back up. Good. Okay, let's come onto our backs. If you feel like having something under your head, you could do so. And then just go ahead, hug your knees into your chest. Take your legs up straight. Cross your right leg in front of your left leg. And then bend your knees and first find that Supta Sukhasana. So the shins are crossed, pull the knees down. And let your tailbone sacrum area drop. Let your rib cage drop. Let your shoulders drop. Crossing the midline also helps us integrate the right and left sides of our brain. There's a dividing kind of membrane between the 2 hemispheres of our brain. And so we want to kind of have that communication going back and forth between both sides. So anytime we cross the midline, we're encouraging that communication. Now take the legs back up, keep them crossed, but now cross a little deeper and come into Gomukhasana legs. So the shins pull away from each other, the feet pull away from each other, almost like we did when we were in that seated forward fold. But now both legs are bent. You could hold your shins or hold the pinky edges of your feet or hold behind your legs. Now, even though we're in this kind of asymmetrical leg position, the spine is still neutral. Get a sense of lengthening through your tail, lengthening through your head, drawing your shoulders down. Squeeze the inner thighs. Press the low back down and have another breath. If you want to stay there, you could, or you could add a little rock now. We're just passing back and forth through that center channel. And then let's release. Take the legs up, maybe circle your feet a little bit, shake it out, and then left leg crosses in front. Find the Sukhasana first. So just crossing the shins, pulling the knees down like we're sitting on the ground. Have that sense of the spine. Have that sense of lengthening. And then legs up again, cross a little deeper, and now come into the Gomukhasana legs. So the shins are going away from each other, the feet are going away from each other, but the inner thighs are squeezing in. Either holding shins behind your legs or hold the pinky edges of your feet. Again, seeing if you can find the neutral spine by lengthening through your tail, pressing through your lower back, and extending through the crown of the head. You can stay here or now start a little rock side to side. All right, release. Take the legs up, circle those feet around again. And then a knee hug, pause here. Find that breath along your spine. You can stay with the knee hug or come into happy baby pose. Still having that sense of rushing the breath along your spine. And then we'll release and go ahead, find your way to your Shavasana. You're going to be coming up. So take a couple moments to settle, grab any props that you need to feel comfortable. And take your time and make sure you feel nice and symmetrical. You can sense the space of your spine. Giving everyone a couple moments to settle in. We're going to do guided meditation along the midline. So first few moments, really just dropping into the ground. Sensing that Shiva principle of stillness, deep rest, of recharging your system after all that dynamic movement off the midline. Bring your awareness to the top of your head. And we're going to travel down the front of the body through the midline by dropping now to the area of the hairline where your hair meets your forehead. And then focusing at the center of your brow, the mystical third eye point, where we have our intuition and our imagination. Drop down to the bridge of your nose between your eyes. And then drop down to the channel beneath your nostrils, noticing the breath there. And dropping down to the indentation below your lips. And then to the notch, the center of your collarbone. Dropping down to your heart space, to your navel center, and then down to the pelvic floor. Now we divide off into two as we travel down both legs. Both knees, front and back, soften the knees. Down to your ankles. The tops of your feet and the spaces between your toes. Notice your toe tips and the pads of your toes. And the soles of your feet. Notice the center of your heels as they rest on the ground. Now feel your whole body resting in stillness. Bring your awareness to the central channel. Brush the breath along the central channel. Start to bring your awareness even deeper, another layer into the spinal cord. And then go even deeper, another layer inside the spinal cord. This is the mystical chitra, like a thin thread, tiny thread of light in the center of your spine. So get really subtle with your awareness. Sense and feel into this deepest channel of energy. Sometimes called the Shunya Nadi, Shushumna, Saraswati, Brahmanadi, many names for this really intimate, tiny channel of light in the center of our being, the pathway to spirit, our connection to earth and sky. So let go of the visualization now and simply drop for another moment or two into your Shavasana. Feeling really balanced and integrated and whole after coming back to that deep channel in the midline. Notice how you feel. When you're ready, you can start to now reawaken with a gentle breath, small movements, fingers and toes. When you're ready, you might want to stretch things out or hug your knees before rolling over onto your right side. And when you roll to your side, make sure you have a pause there. So try not to pop up. Let yourself stay calm and relaxed. Hold on to that meditative feeling. So we're going to come up to sit for a moment. So when you're ready, after you've had that pause on your side, let's find a seated position. And again, you might sit on a prop, bolster, blanket, pillow, making sure we're pulling those sit bones apart so we can feel the base on the ground. And align your spine along that central channel. We're going to bring the palms into a little cup. So one hand on the bottom, I have my right hand on top, and then touch your thumbs together and let it rest down in your lap. So the thumbs meet in the center. Making sure we're stacking the rib cage over those sit bones, shoulders over the ribs. And then lift the back of the skull gently and let the chin drop just slightly till we feel a lengthening through the spine. Touch your tongue to the upper palate in your mouth, also on the midline. And bring your awareness to your middle brain. Focus there. Maybe the eyes could be closed if you are comfortable. Breathing into the belly. Tuning into that subtle inner channel, deep, deep within the spinal column. Maybe imagining that thread of light. Let's take 3 more breaths, brushing the breath along the spine. Nice full breath into the abdomen. Nice soft, slow exhalations. Last round. So as you go about the next couple days, you find yourself being thrown off center, find ways to find the Shiva in your Shakti. Let's bring the hands together now in front of the heart space. Have a nice inhale, let the heart lift, and as you exhale, bow your head down to your heart. And thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. All right, thank you guys. Feel free to unmute, say goodbye. Hope you guys have a great Saturday, great Sunday. Thank you for coming out for class.
Thank you, Dee.
Yes, thanks, Dee.
you.
It was great.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much. All right, thank you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.
It's great
Bye.
to see you, Lori and Brian. See ya.
How'd you do, Laura? You're muted. I can't hear you. Do you know how to unmute? No? You did good. Okay, good.
Yes,
All right.
great. Thank you so much. We will
You're welcome.
definitely see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
See ya,
Bye-bye.
Brian.